Well, back in the day, our first president, he did something revolutionary. He voluntarily stepped down after 2 terms. And you see, Washington could have been president for a much longer period if he wanted. I mean, people adored him. But he said, no, 2 terms is enough. He actually worried that staying longer would make the presidency look too much like a monarchy. And just like that, Washington created an unwritten rule that lasted for almost 150 years. And president after president followed Washington's example. Thomas Jefferson served 2 terms and left. James Madison, he did the same. Andrew Jackson, too. Even when Ulysses Grant tried for a 3rd term in 1880, voters essentially said, nice try, but no. The 2-term tradition had become as American as apple pie. And then came Franklin Delano Roosevelt. FDR took office in 1933, right in the middle of the Great Depression. Banks were failing. Millions of Americans had lost their jobs. People were literally starving. And Roosevelt launched the New Deal, created Social Security, and gave Americans hope through his fireside chats on the radio. When 1940 rolled around, World War II was raging in Europe, and Roosevelt made a bold decision. He ran for a 3rd term. Now, Republicans went absolutely ballistic. They called him a dictator, a king, a threat to democracy itself. But American voters, they disagreed. They elected Roosevelt to a 3rd term, and then, get this, a 4th in 1944. No president ever had wielded power for that long. Roosevelt died in April 1945, just months into his 4th term. Republicans in Congress saw their chance. They've been shut out of the White House for about 12 years, in fact, over 12 years, and they were determined to make sure that no president could ever accumulate that much power again. Senator Kenneth Wherry of Nebraska led the charge. He argued that the 2-term limit would prevent any future president from becoming too powerful, too entrenched, too king-like. Democrats fought back, saying that people should have the right to elect whoever they wanted for as long as they wanted. But Republicans had just won control of Congress in the 1946 midterm elections, and they had the votes. Congress passed the amendment in March 1947. But here's the thing about constitutional amendments. Congress just can't make them law by themselves. No, in fact, 3/4 of the state legislatures have to actually ratify them. And this is when the political chess game really heated up. States started voting quickly. Maine ratified it first, just minutes after Congress actually approved it. Michigan then followed the same day. And within a year, 18 states had said yes. But then things kind of slowed down. Some states, especially in the South, where Roosevelt had been extremely popular, they resisted. Oklahoma and Massachusetts actually rejected it, at least initially. The ratification battle dragged on for nearly 4 years. State legislatures debated fiercely. Should Americans have the right to keep a great president in office during a crisis? Or did term limits protect democracy from would-be dictators? Finally, on February 27th, 1951, Minnesota became the 36th state to ratify, pushing the amendment finally over the finish line. Nevada and Utah ratified the same day. The 22nd Amendment officially became part of the Constitution. But wait, what followed actually was a little bit ironic. The first president affected by this new amendment wasn't, in fact, a Democrat trying to cling on to power. No, it was actually Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican. Now, if you know your 1950s history, or if you watched any episode of Happy Days, you would know that Eisenhower was incredibly popular in the 1950s and very likely could have won a third term. In fact, some Republicans actually regretted passing the amendment when they realized that it would actually force their own guy out of office. Well, since then, several presidents have actually bumped up against this two-term limit. Reagan, Clinton, and Obama all had approval ratings that suggested that they may have been able to win a third term. Clinton, in fact, once joked that he would have loved to have run again in 2000, saying, "I would have beaten Bush." Now, this is no slight against George Bush, because we all know Clinton actually loved Bush. Well, the 22nd Amendment has had some unexpected consequences. Presidents in their second terms often face what political scientists call the lame duck effect. Congress and foreign leaders know the president will be gone soon, which can weaken their negotiating power. But on the flip side, second-term presidents often feel more free to make bold decisions since they don't need to worry about a re-election. Today, the debate continues. Some argue that we should repeal the 22nd Amendment and let voters decide how long a president serves. Others say term limits remain essential to preventing the concentration of power. What started as George Washington's personal decision has become one of the defining features of American democracy.